Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is RADHI FAUZAN, and we're going to present our project, which is the study of operating system. In this case, we're doing Linux operating system. We're going to discuss what is Linux, the background, the history, and the features, the advantages, disadvantages, and also the comparison with other operating system, particularly comparison between Linux and Windows. So this project is prepared by me, RADHI FAUZAN, and Aqilah, and HAQEEM. So moving on, we have what is Linux. Linux is an operating system. However, when we say operating system, we likely to relate it with a computer. Computer have an operating system, right? However, when it comes to Linux, it can be implemented in other systems as well, other than computers. So what other machine or system that have implemented Linux as an operating system? Well, we have fridge, we have washing machine, basically few household items or household appliances that we see in our daily life basically have Linux, or maybe not, but some of them. So this is a fridge that implement Linux as their operating system. Now, why does this fridge use Linux? Because this fridge offers a features that you can control the temperature, the humidity of the fridge, and so much more. There are many features that you can do with this fridge. And why does operating system is needed? Because when we're interacting with a machine, there have to be some sort of interface that allows you, human, to interact with the machine, the system. So thus, that is what we call an interface that allows you to interact with the machine. So this is why we need to use operating system to interact with the fridge. Moving on to the history of Linux. Who invented Linux at the first place? So as you can see in this picture, his name is Linus Torvalds. And of course, we want to know how he created Linux at the first place. It all begins in 1991. In 1991, he's still a student somewhere in Helsinki, in University of Helsinki. He wants to create an operating system. Well, at that time, Unix is most popular operating system currently, but he wants to do an operating system for fun. And who knows, today Linux is something else. It's so big, and more or most machines use it now. So what motivates him to develop Linux? During his time, operating system, you cannot modify operating system. You cannot do anything according to your likings. You cannot configure to your own settings. So with that particular issues, Linus want to develop something where he can do whatever he wants to the operating system. And moreover, during his time studying, access to software is limited or difficult. It is difficult to buy or to get a free software. So he developed himself a software that he developed, and accidentally he interested in developing games, softwares such as Pac-Man. And then yeah, that's what motivates him to develop Linux, because the first one, he cannot do anything or cannot modify, configure the operating system at that time. So he want to create something, some operating system that he can modify freely without any restriction. Moving on to the features and advantages of Linux, we see that most popularly, Linux is open source. And what is so great about open source, and what is open source anyway? So when we talk about open source, if we want to develop an operating system, you have to know the programming or the coding behind it, right? So in case for Windows, Windows is a proprietary software, which is the code behind the Windows or the programming behind Windows operating system is secured. No one can no one can get access to the code except for their engineers, except for their staffs. However, in Linux, the code behind or the program behind the operating system is accessible to the community. Everyone can access to the code. Everyone can copy the exact same code and improvise the code so that the source code is accessible to the community. So if the source code is accessible, what's so great about it anyway? What are the benefits? Well, the first thing is when anyone or everyone can access to the code, then you do not know if that particular someone have a brilliant idea or can contribute to some impactful ideas to improvise the operating system can add more code that can fix more bugs, can modify code that can improve the system, anything. So that what makes Linux so great, because it keeps getting better every time. It keeps getting better and better and better. Compared to Windows, no one knows exactly how it is programmed, and no one in the community, except for their staff, can provide a better solution for problems when it comes to programming an operating system. And the second one, you can avoid annoying crashes. Like compared to Windows, I bet everyone, or maybe few of, I don't want to say few, but most of people who uses Windows have run into this issue. Your PC ran into a problem and needs to restart. In Linux, you will not get something like this, because, okay, so normally, why do you encounter these crashes anyway? Normally, it is because your update or your operating system is corrupted. Why is it corrupted? Because when there are updates to the software, and you have to restart your computer in order for that changes to be applied to your software. However, in Linux, when there is an update, the update will be implemented when the system is operational. You do not have to restart your computer in order to make the update take place, or to make the update applicable to the software. So you don't have to restart your computer in Linux to apply changes whenever there is an update. Thus, you can avoid annoying crashes. And thirdly, the features that I like about Linux is it is portable. What I mean portable is Linux can be used as operating system other than computers, such as fridge, home appliances. Not restricted to home appliances, but mobile phones. There are mobile phones who use Linux, and in this particular slides, Linux is portable. You can migrate this operating system from your computer, from your phones, from your home appliances. Yeah. So when you think operation system is merely for computer system, well, think again, because Linux can do more than just operating system for computers. Okay, so previously we have discussed the advantages and features of Linux. But on the contrary, we're going to discuss the limitations and disadvantages of using Linux. Firstly, Linux is difficult to learn. Or is this just a merely misconception about Linux? Do you need to learn how to use the terminal? And this is somewhat true, because when you're dealing with crashes, or when you're dealing with troubleshooting in Linux operating system, the only thing that can help you is command prompt or the terminal. And learning the terminal is somewhat difficult. You have to adapt with the terminal in order to use Linux as your daily operating system, especially if you're a professional, where suppose that you're a system developer or system maintenance, and learning terminal is quite challenging. Well, I don't want to say challenging, but you have to put your time and effort in learning the terminal in order to comfortably use Linux as your daily operating system. And most of Linux problems can be solved using the terminal. So there are no choices other than learning the terminal itself. Next, it's all a matter of learning when using Linux. You have to learn, and learn. You need to learn to be independent. And what I mean by that, suppose that you have one problem, or you have network connection issues with Linux. When you're dealing with these issues, normally we as a Windows user always try to look up on the internet or YouTube how to fix A, how to fix B in Windows. However, in Linux, it doesn't work way, because in this case, Linux is used by minority of people. So when you're dealing with problem A, other people dealing with problem B, so they cannot help you. So you have to learn by your own. You have to keep learning, and you have to adapt to the operating system in order to use it. So that's all. Learn, and learn. And lastly, we have hardware and software compatibility issues. Suppose you're buying a new device, your pen tablet, and you want to attach it to your computer, and your computer is running Linux. And commonly, there are driver issues where Linux doesn't support that device. Normally because the developer of the device does not offers drivers for Linux operating system. So that is very troublesome. That is very annoying for graphic designer which uses graphic tablet. And sometimes you will deal with printer driver issues. And how to configure this type of problem? You have to develop your own device driver, or you have to ask the developer to develop a device driver for your device. And that concludes the limitations and disadvantages of using Linux. However, when compared to advantages and features of Linux, the features is still interesting though. However, it depends on the user. Why or what are you going to do if you're using Linux? What are your big reasons, your big why when using this operating system?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NURUL Athirah BINTI. So here I will present the comparison between the Linux operating system and the Windows operating system. So there are 2 points that I will explain, which is security and the user. Okay, 4.1, which is security. The developer and the user have a substance of the information of Linux. However, it is desired with the little in the way of a comprehensive. The security of Linux is one of the open source. Okay, for the Linux operating system, first point is the highly secure operating system due to the high technology security, which means it is a highly secure operating system and difficult to break through when compared to the other operating system. One of the reasons that make Linux more popular and have a huge enormous use is because of its high technology. Moreover, Linux also have a great level of maintenance from the community of developers. In addition, Linux user will find the way how to fix any issue that happens there, as it is open source. The next point is about the Windows operating system. First point is requires the authority to edit source code, and the user unable to resolve the problem on their own, which means Windows requires the authority to edit the source code and the user are unable to resolve the problem on their own. If the user encounter an issue with the operating system, they must submit it to the Microsoft and then wait for it to be resolved. Although it is not as strongly designed as Linux, Windows provide a user account control mechanism to control the access. Windows is not well segmented and hence more prone to threats, whereas Linux provides segmented working environment that protect the operating system from the virus attack. So we can see here, and we know the reason why the hackers are always interested in Windows. It is because it more focused on targeting the virus or malicious software they create will get an effect in large segment of the user. But Linux will always keep the user safer. As we can see, Linux has more features than Windows that make it more safe. Okay, for my next point is user. There are 3 types of user in Linux, which are regular, administrative, and services. For a regular user, it is great when you install Ubuntu on your system, while all your file and folder will be stored indirectly. It will not have access to another user directories like a regular user. Second, the root user, which is the administrative user, is created at the same time as the installation. The account has administrator capabilities and can access the restrict file and install application. If the user need to install software or make change to system file on Linux, they must log in as an administrator. For the third one is the services. Linux is one of the most extensively used operating system. Email and other services have their own separate service account. It's improved the computer security. It is because it can allow and deny access from the outside depending on the service. Lastly, about the Windows operating system for the user. For Windows, there are 3 types of user account types, which are administrator, standard, and children and guests. The purpose of administrator account is for users have their own specialties that can be used to change system setting and control the other people's account. It also has complete control over the computer setting. Every computer has its own administrator account. Furthermore, for the standard account user, they can use it for everyday tasks. As the user, we have the ability to perform any task that we require, such as installing software and customizing our desktop. Last but not least, children and guests which standard with family safety user. Parental control are possible on this account. We can set the website to restrict all time limits for each child in the family safety setting in the control panel. So I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad HAQEEM TANNY, and I will continue on the comparison of Linux operating system and Windows operating system. So the next comparison is compatibility. Despite current improvements in software being converted or developed for Linux operating system, Windows remains the undisputed king of compatibility. Users of Windows can be confident that practically any software will run, even if the developer has abandoned it. Windows also has excellent legacy support. They are straightforward and simple. On the other hand, Linux OS has difficulty with the fundamentals that Windows users take for granted. Next will be the file system. In Microsoft Windows, files are organized in directories or folders in various hard drives such as C file, D, and E. However, in Linux, files are organized in directory and branches out to multiple subdirectories. Everything in Linux is treated as a file. Files are files, directories are files, and externally attached device like a printer, mouse, keyboard also a file. So next will be the privacy. If we use Linux operating system, we have an operating system that does not track our activities. When we use Linux, the system is yours alone. You can also add the fact that most Linux computers have built-in military-grade encryption as an option. As a consumers, we may rest assured that data theft is not a serious concern. However, on the contrary, during the last few years, Windows has seen an increase in ads traffic. Users will undoubtedly be given the option to option out, but who can help the individuals to hacks? They are plainly part of the Redmond, which are the home of Microsoft plan. Windows can monitor users' activities and offer to sync them in Microsoft OneDrive service or learn their habits in order to improve Cortana, Microsoft personal assistant. That's all from me. Thank you.